Nnamdi,
Goodness, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Just running and gunning.
Wow, goodness. How's it been in Vienna? Because you've been touring around Europe and it's non-stop.
Non-stop. Unbelievably just crazy. It's really nice here.
Wow. I mean, how the fans been? I mean, especially this summer, seeing Lionel and seeing you guys.
Oh man, the fans have been just really receptive and very crazy, considering, like I said, Lionel, the old man who's 74 now, is still
Wow.
killing him, man. He's out there, so much energy, just running around like he's 40 years old, or 35. It's crazy.
Wow. Well, yeah, you're not too far behind. I mean, people still think you're
I'm
in your
not too
30s. So,
Yeah, I'm not a spring chicken myself.
that oh good, it's been an honor really to be able to get you on, and really just to hear your life story, because so many people are so familiar with your work as a producer, as a songwriter, as a music director, and generally it'd be interesting just to see how, where you started, and things like that. But international audience, where were you born and raised?
I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California. Um,
Wow.
yep, born and raised. But to make it more specific, I was actually I lived in a city or town called San Pedro, which is basically it's all LA County. LA County is very huge, and there's a lot of pockets and cities within LA.
Yeah.
So most people, when I say San Pedro, they're like, "Well, what's that? Where's that at?" So I just say, "Hey, it's just LA," just to make it simpler and easier because a lot of people just don't know. But you know, the all surrounding areas. I grew up like in LA, Carson, Compton, Long Beach, you name
Wow.
it. It's all one big. It's all LA County. So most people just say, from LA because there's just so many pockets in LA County. It's just huge.
Wow. Yeah, so for me, I did work out in LA, and I worked out in Torrance, lived out
Yeah,
in
Torrance.
Yeah, lived in Redondo
Yeah,
Beach.
Torrance. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, San Pedro is only like 5 minutes from Torrance. That's all considered South Bay.
Okay,
Yeah.
then I know. Okay, I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, because I worked out in Torrance, lived in Redondo Beach,
Yeah.
then
Redondo Beach.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 I think LA, especially when those of us who, even I lived out there, but for those of us who are international, when we think of Los Angeles, the apart from Hollywood, a lot of Death Row and Ruthless kind of gave LA a different sense, and we always think of LA being a very violent and
Yes.
training day and
Yes.
stuff. Well, growing up as a
Yes.
kid, how was LA then as a kid?
Growing up, LA was pretty tough, man. It
Wow.
was pretty tough. I think the good thing about it was that even though where I lived in San Pedro, it was considered like it was RSP, Rancho San Pedro. It was the project. So
Oh,
it was really crazy, man. It was really, really crazy. But the one good thing I can say that I took out of that was it made me grow a thick skin. In other words, resiliency, just being resilient because growing in something, I was a sickly child growing up. I had asthma, I had eczema. I had all these, problems as a kid growing up. So, kids will tease you, and
yeah.
they'll mess with you and all that. So, like I said, that made me grow a really thick skin to basically be ready for the music industry and for people all around. It doesn't bother me that it just made me really, really made me really like just resilient. And I think
Wow.
that's the one good thing I can pull from growing up in that environment in that society.
When I've spoken to people who grew up in New York, and they talk about how in the 80s there was the crack epidemic that really affected them, then those in LA, it feels as if the gang scene was just started to be pushed. How did you maneuver to sort of keep away from, say, the drugs and the gangs, as a
You
kid?
know, a lot of that, because like I said, I grew up in the heart of all of that.
Wow.
But I had a great family, man. My mother, my grandmother, my uncles, they were all very supportive of me. And on top of that, my mother, we grew up in the church. So
Ah,
she
okay.
was very, very adamant about, she was very hard, and very protective of me as a child growing up. So I didn't really, I was, even though I was exposed to it, I was deathly afraid of my mother and my family. So my mother was just like, she didn't play. Celestine does not play. Trust me when I tell you this. So I was very, I just looked up to her, not just as a mother, but as a role model because she was a gospel pianist in her own right. She played in all the churches, all in LA. She's been on records. She's been on. So, as a kid growing up, that was like, that was everything. She was like my superstar. She was like my role model.
So when you got into music, was it influenced by your mom, or did you have an option? Did you want to play sports, or?
I did want to play sports. I wanted to play baseball. I wanted to play football. I also I was into graphic arts. I actually got a scholarship to the Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, California, which I did attend for a while because I love to draw. I collect comic books. I was a nerd. I collect comic books, and I did all of that stuff as a kid. But all of those things kind of kept me out of being in the streets. It did. I was really into drawing. Yeah, I did all of that stuff. Coming up. But again, music was always in my blood. Because of my family line, my mother, my uncle, my uncles, my grandmother, my great grandmother. They all played piano. They all played. They were all musicians. So it was just a matter of time for me, I guess.
I mean, so was it just pretty much if you're coming from a generation of musicians, did you have to learn as a young child? Like, come on, Chuckii, music lessons, or was it stuff that you naturally go to the piano and start playing?
I think it was a natural progression for me because I just remember as a child, my mother just stuck this little toy piano in front of me, and I just started banging on it, and as well as my godmother too. My godmother is Glodine White, who was the wife of Barry White. Her and my mother were best friends, growing up as
Wow.
kids. So that's how the connection, got to Barry was through my godmother. But my godmother used to babysit me, watch me, and she used to tell my mom, well, you got one, you got another musician in the family. So yeah.
I'm thinking about because I was into the comics as well, but I mean, were you just an avid reader, or was it that you were fascinated about drawing and creating your own?
I never learned how to read music. It was just all by ear, natural, just like my mother and my grandmother. They all played in the church without any formal training. I've never had any formal training whatsoever. Uh, it was just all by ear
But
and
what
just
difference does that
listen.
make then? When because I'm just trying to, especially those of us who have young kids who are trying,
Yeah.
and it seems as if you're trying to get them into it, and if you don't know how to play, you almost have them read the music. But for yourself, how did you find it when you just had to learn without listening?
Uh, it's that I think is a God given a born talent. You have to be
Okay,
able to listen,
okay,
to pick up certain things. That's actually a God given talent. You have to be able
okay.
to listen to things and go to the bass or the piano and say, okay, I'm gonna play this and just start. There it's a talent, man. It's just something you can't learn. You
Uh,
cannot learn that. You have to. It has to be within you.
so it's almost like you hear something and you're trying to replicate it.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's a God given talent, and there's a lot of people who are that way. Believe it or not. I mean, to the point to where you listen to them, you hear them, and it's just like, wow, this kid, he has to either learn, he has to, was taught music, or I'm sure he went to school or he had formal training. No, this is all by ear.
Okay, because
Yeah.
when I try and get my kids to think, okay, if we were to get you in a sort of church band and they're just moving into a new song, can you go? And I said, no, no, I need the sheets to see
Yeah, yeah,
what the chords are. But
yeah, yeah.
there are others I
Which
know
is
who
fine.
just sit in and then they're just hearing and just join in, almost like, okay, this is a flow, I know what it is, and they can
Right,
just.
right, right, right. Yeah. No, I mean, reading is fine too. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with reading. In fact, I wish I could have had some type of formal training. But for me, I think the best musicians are the ones who read by ear, but also have had some formal training along to just basically put it into perspective. Those type of musicians are amazing because
Wow.
they have the best of both worlds.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess if because I guess when you can hear by without reading, there's no barriers. I guess I would assume that
Right,
you don't think
right.
about, okay, this is the chord structure, and you have to end here. You can just you can just be picking up songs
Yeah,
and your
yeah,
imagination.
yeah. And again, it also depends on what type of occupation you want. Some people are just born to read music, like, basically orchestra, those type of musicians who are in an orchestra. You have to be an avid reader.
Mm.
I mean, you cannot go in there and say, "Oh, I want to do this entire concerto or this concert by ear." That's not going to happen. There's
Okay.
so many parts and so many intangibles and variables within music that you have to read. So some people, they enjoy that part of it. Some musicians actually like that. But me, as just one who plays by ear, I could never do a concerto or an entire orchestra. It would take me literally weeks and months to learn all those nuances of the way that the show flows. It would take me weeks to have to learn all that, then do it. But in doing entertainment and live TV, you need someone who reads. You just slap the music in front of them and say, "Okay, we're about to go on live in 5, 4, 3, 2, let's go." That's a whole nother can of worms.
But you're a music director, and you're not just responsible for your own instrument, but you're responsible for everyone else. So are
Yeah,
you saying that's more rehearsal and makes sure everyone's on point, as opposed to directing them as a, or what's
yeah.
the difference between you and a conductor?
Well, big difference. I mean, a conductor is like he has the music in front of him. I mean, he's looking at it, right? He knows where everything is supposed to be. As a music director, it's like I basically put the show together. So I already know all the parts. So all I'm doing is just giving the parts that I hear in my head to the musicians and say, "Okay, play this, play that, play this." And then we work it out to see if it flows like it did in my head. And if it flows right, then we're on to the next song. Do the same thing. Let's work out the parts, the arrangements. Let's see how it works out. Boom, let's hit it. Let's go. So it's a big difference.
Yeah, but with a music director, do you give the musicians, especially if you had, say, Jubu playing lead and you had DOA playing bass, do you then say, okay, this is the general structure where we want to go,
Right.
but you can feel free to flow if you see
Oh
the
yeah.
singer going this way and that way?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like, if that was the case, yeah, okay, this part is the verse, this is the chorus. All right, Jubu, this is your time to shine. You got a solo right here. You can do your thing. Do your thing. I'm really a parts guy. So if it's like, let's say if it's like a Lionel Richie record and there's a certain part on easy, I mean, every musical director is different. However, I'm the type of person that just like, you know what, let's play it like the record. We could add little stuff in here and there, little changes and nuances. But for the majority of the part, let's play it like the record because that's what people want to hear when you go to a concert. You don't want to hear like this 2023 remix of All Night Long. It's like, yeah, it'd be dope, but that's not what that's not what they came to listen to. They
Okay,
came to hear the record, you know what I'm saying, to hear
okay,
those parts. So I'm a parts guy.
okay,
Yeah, I'm a
okay.
parts guy.
Hey, thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. If you loved what you watched, there's over 100 artists that we've interviewed. So please check out the videos. Remember to like, share, how not unsubscribe. But better still, become a member of Halftime Chat and get exclusive videos ahead of time. But thanks for watching. Take care.